Joining us today is Terje Fjeldvær, joining us from Norway, and it's great to have you with us. We're going to be talking about mitigating risk and fraud prevention. And Terje is the Senior Vice President and Head of Financial Cyber Crime Centre, which is called FC3 at DNB Bank Norway. He's a former police superintendent with the Norwegian Police, where he was a specialist in investigating economic crime. And since 2006, he's had the global professional responsibility for handling fraud cases against the DNB Group. He's now leading DNB's Financial Crime Centre, and he's also the DNB spokesman on fraud and digital safety. Terje, welcome.
Thank you very much.
Wonderful you could join us today. Look, you have a very, very interesting background, and as I said when we were just you came into the call, I'm really curious to just draw a line between your former role as a police superintendent working with economic crime and how you've built that bridge across to cybersecurity and cybercrime.
Yeah, sure. So what I feel is I want to actually do a difference with what I do. So I feel that my effort should mean as much as possible.
Mm-hmm.
And what we do in DNB, we really take the social responsibility to be able to prevent fraud against customers. And we also know that the proceeds from those fraud cases are used to invest in kind of weapons and drug trading and sometimes also terrorist financing. So when we are able to block that much and so much that we can do, and I also with this position I have now, I feel my effort actually means anything to the whole financial institution, all the financial institutions in Norway. So I feel my effort is worth more being with the largest bank in Norway rather than investigating cases in the police. So I'm very happy to be at the place I am now.
Yeah, it's a very exciting thing, and I appreciate you bringing up the idea of us, sort of a corporate social responsibility to prevent crime, so other really bad externalities don't happen down the track. And it's wonderful you bring that up so early in our conference today. And before we go into the deeper questions about specific cases and some interesting pieces, how long has the FC3 Centre been operating?
Well, under that name, it has been since 2017. But we started the work actually a year before that, combining the regular investigations of fraud against the DNB Group and the what we call e-fraud or digital fraud work, combine those two into one department and started that work to invest quite heavily in sophisticated IT systems to monitor transactions, to prevent the customers, and also using the investigative routines that we had from before.
Yeah, I mean, you've been with the group since 2015, I understand.
Yeah.
And you must have seen an enormous growth in this area, both in the threat side, but also in the capability of detecting threats, etc. Tell me a little bit about, just where you see the landscape is now, or how it's evolved over that 5 years you've been with DNB.
Yeah, it's quite an extraordinary rise in the number of cases, and we have actually seen an increase for 300% in the digital fraud cases in 2 years now. So it's massive, and then we don't count all the kind of phishing attacks with other brands. We only count phishing attacks attacking DNB brand or misusing DNB brand. Yeah. So the increase is very large, but we also see that the sophistication and the use of technology and the level of how good these scams and frauds are placed, leading to people that are normally cautious also would be could be defrauded. So that is also what I'm planning to say something about and giving some examples from.
Yeah, so let's jump into some examples. So can you give us a real-life example of a sophisticated fraud case where criminals have adopted new technology to do their crimes?
Yeah, and I actually will go into two examples, one business example and one retail example, because manipulation is key when it comes to fraud in any kind, and people are people, but the way they manipulate and the level of technology is a bit different from businesses and retail customers, and it's also a bit different how we mitigate those risks. So starting with last year, we had a very large BEC, business email compromise case, on one of our customers who lost $10 million US. And although the technology used in kind of business email compromise attacks is not very modern or new, it's very sophisticated the way this attack happened anyway. So the criminals showed actually a very high level of adaptation, both to the victims' routines and also the current situation, which was right at the start of the COVID-19 pandemic. Firstly, they were inside the customers' email systems for 7 months before they attacked one particular transaction and decided this is what we want. Secondly, they also used information or the uncertainty around the situation around COVID-19 to manipulate the recipient of the money. And they also operated as a man in the middle, and they used compromising emails and also lookalike email addresses to CC in the CFO so that everyone thought she was involved in the conversation. They also told the recipient, the sender, that the money was received, while the recipient was told that due to COVID-19 and Norway took a very hard hit, the money will not come as quickly as we wanted to. When sitting in Cambodia, it's difficult to actually control that kind of information, whether Norway is attacked by COVID-19 or not, because you have your own problems. And they also adapted to the situation because our threat intel and our knowledge from cases like this from before would indicate that the proceeds should be transferred to China or Hong Kong. But in this case, we actually saw a transaction to Mexico. So while the corrupt bankers and policemen in China and Hong Kong was not able to perform any help due to they were in lockdown, they actually turned to the Mexican drug cartels to launder the money that way. This shows kind of great capacity and great capabilities to adopt and manipulate the sender and to use the level of technology that they need to succeed in such an attack.
And also, I think, one of the things, if I can just insert a comment, that, one of the things that I really take away from what you just said is the level of planning. That there is and I think this was also something that came out in the recent SolarWinds hack, was how long the time frame was between the seed being planted and the hack happening, or the hack being executed. So the fact that they can track routines, that have this really long view about how they work, that seems to me something that we really need to be able to manage. To be able to manage this, they have a long time frame. How do we know that they're lying there dormant, waiting?
Definitely, and these are highly skilled, and they have lots of resources. So if they find you as a target and they want to defraud you, they might actually succeed because they are very patient, and they wait for the right moment. They don't take the first and the best moment to use this opportunity.
Yeah. And so you've given us some examples now, which I think are just so compelling. The fact that you could CC in the CFO, or people are during their busy day, looking through dozens of emails. It's a very, very difficult thing to pick up at that level of detection of an email address or something like this. So what are your long-term plans to mitigate and prevent these sorts of incidents? How do you see that we can tackle this difficult landscape?
We realize when it comes to preventing frauds like this that we believe very much in a multi-layered system, of course. Also, when it comes within the bank, a multi-layered systems to control the transaction and to mitigate the risk. But when it comes to international companies, they have tons of payments every day, many of them to high-risk countries. It's difficult to see whether a transaction or a recipient account number is inserted in the system due to a compromising of an email conversation between two other parties that is not the bank. So what we do in this case, actually, we had our incident handling and connecting the customer to the police and help them with the media handling, etc. But we also have after this seen a rise in the expectations from our customers that we need to aware them and train them to have good payment routines and good email security. So both for retail and business customers, we realize that we can do a lot in the transaction level, but our level 0 should be kind of awareness training. So we very much and highly prioritize that thing. So when it comes to the customer side, awareness is key. We have published our advice on the DNB side. We have made several webinars, and they are open to all to see so that they can have good routines. We are very clear that the responsibility to insert the correct information is at the customer end. So trying to learn them how the world works and how they could have good routines. On the technology side, we are looking very much to rules, getting more models into place that could do more advanced analytics in real time. And also we have actually agreed with the business area that we could delay somehow more transactions to make a good control onto the customers to see. So a little bit higher customer friction until the systems will operate more or less themselves is a mitigating action that has worked in some cases. And the thing is that the smaller cases with lower amounts that is stolen, they are at the same advanced level when it comes to the fraud and the detection part. So actually a case detected could be the larger case, but it's only the amount that is different in
Yeah.
So,
You know, one of the things I really like to highlight from what you just said is that you really have a dance with the customer. It's really a case of the customer being the first level of proactivity, doing, and helping them to be proactive. And I see that this sort of extension of the bank security extending out to becoming training, to becoming security partners in that sense with your clients is such an interesting step. Because as I gave the example, when I first started banking, I literally had a paper book and I walked into a bank and someone put a stamp on it. I'm that old, it was the Jurassic period. But this era of banking now, the banks really need to help us understand what is a secure thing. And you also mentioned one other word, which is friction. Yeah.
Yeah.
And in this area, I think, and let's have this as a closing comment, there is this dance between innovation and security that happens all the time, where the innovators want less friction and the people in security want to maintain enough. So how do you see that we balance that?
I think that historically, security was a thing that should only work and sit in the corner and not be seen.
Yep.
We have moved quite significantly from that being very open on security issues to aware our customers. But as a very good thing to mitigate the automated phishing attacks that we have now and making e-commerce more secure, etc. You have a regulation in the PSD2 which says that you should have secure customer authentication for all transactions, but you may have some exemptions if you have other mitigating actions in place. So we are actually looking into the possibility to use increased security for SCA exemptions now, so that the eFraud risk engine actually can score e-commerce transactions and the use of the mobile application for retail customers to make better security with lower friction. So I think that's the way to go.
Great. Look, you've had a wonderful contribution to the event this morning. We have to move on to our next speaker, but I really thank you for being with us. And thank you for all your really great contributions. And you've kicked the event off in a fantastic way. So thank you very much.
Okay, thank you, and have a good conversation.